as requested, be out to the Bills Dragon for the next t-shirt campaign. So this campaign launches today, right now, this Friday, and it's going to last for 2 weeks. So as always, these are our limited edition t-shirt campaigns. They run for 2 weeks. They will never be printed again. And like we said at the end of the last video, these t-shirt campaigns and the merchandise sales is really how we manage to do kind of the bigger ticket items, how we manage to buy the bronze and the diesel engine. And we've got sales and rigging and things coming up in the not too distant future that we're starting to rally the funds for. And Patreon is really what we do to keep the lights on and keep everybody paid, and the videos coming every week. And these t-shirt campaigns and merchandise is really how we get that big stuff to get Arabella set up well into the water. So thank you so much to everyone who has contributed in one way, shape, or form to this journey and this video series, and we look forward to seeing you every Friday. So without further ado, let's get to our normal program.
It may seem obvious, but one of the advantages of building your own boat is that you can make choices during the process that maybe no one else would make for themselves. If Arabella was getting built to be sold on the open market, her future owner will most likely not be up for making modifications to the boat as the years go by. But for Steve, if what today seems like a great idea and it doesn't work in practice out on the water, changes can be made, and today's furniture is next year's firewood. In that spirit, Steve and Wes, who returns for the next couple of weeks from the volunteer state, gets started on a new maple workbench inside the boat.
All right, I know it's going to sound bonkers, but I want this on the boat.
It's a pretty large device.
I want this on the boat bad. It is like hands down the most versatile vise I have ever used. So we can undo the lever here, and it rotates, and it has stops. So we can stop there, there, there. You get the idea.
Yeah.
And then we can loosen this one. And the whole vise will go that way. And then we can still loosen this and rotate it. And then it's got the dogs. So those can go either way and sit flush. You get the jaws. And then the last feature is we can adjust it for angle pieces. Yeah. For starters, I know myself well enough to know that I'm never going to stop building things. The scale might change, but I'm going to want to build stuff. And you're also going to have to fix stuff. And there will be times we're going to want to make some money. And I think this vise would be very nice for all of those. So as we're like working on that workstation, I think the workstation basically is going to revolve around this vise. And one of the tricky things is we got to make sure we have enough room for this guy here. And you got to be able to get to the controls. So basically, there's going to have to be a slot. It doesn't have to be super wide. I think it's like 12 inches or so that we have that's uninterrupted for this to go up and down. And then we'll be able to put drawers to either side of it. And I think what we'll end up doing is getting the workbench top kind of figured out, figure out the exact vise location, figure out where the dogs are, and then those will end up dictating where the drawers are gonna go. But we can go down and have that drawn out. I just wanted you to have that visual idea of what that space needs to be around the vise. And then this vise can also get set back, so we can cut into the table, right, and we can close all of this space up, which will make this a lot less obtrusive. So this is basically where things are going to be. This is a mock-up of Victoria's saloon table, and I'm not totally 100% sold on her saloon table. I don't want to build the entire interior around the table, so we're seeing how it'll work, but if the space doesn't quite work out, we'll just build a different saloon table, but it kind of gives you the idea. And then we've got the main settee berth here, so this is where we would spend most of the time sitting at the table, and if someone wanted to sleep, this would be a place to do it. And what I'm envisioning over here is a predominantly storage space that also can function as a bunk and also is a good workspace. Between these two pink lines and level back to the hall would be a water tank, which would balance out the water tank that's under the berth here. Between the string and the bottom of the shelf here, we can put in some drawers. And those will be storage for tools and spare parts and whatnot. And then this represents how much the pattern maker's vise would protrude, which is, I was a bit generous. It'll actually protrude a little bit less. Most of the time, this will just be storage. We can put the cooler up here, you can throw the fishing gear, the climbing gear, whatever. It can just get piled on the bench and strapped in. And if it needs to be a bunk, we can move that stuff somewhere else and someone can sleep on here. There's still plenty of room to get in. And if we need to build something, work on something, fix something, redo something, we can move the stuff off of it and have like a really functional workbench, which I think would be a really, really nice thing to have. And I definitely wanted your opinion on how you think we should do the drawers. Should we just box them in and just have them slide in without any rails? Do we want to put them on guides on the sides, guides on the bottoms? There's like a million different ways to do drawers.
There are a million different ways to do drawers, exactly.
One thing that I would really like is if the drawers needed to be lifted up just a little bit and then pulled out so that that was their natural latch.
Yes.
So that in just normal at an anchorage, they're not going to be rolling
Sliding
open and
out,
shut.
right.
And there's no real like latches or anything. And then I think what we'll do is figure out some way to easily run a line or a board that goes from the bench top down to where it frames in the water tanks, so we can just put like a vertical strut in front of them, so that when we're really offshore and things are rolling and there's like the potential of maybe the boat getting rolled for some heavens forbid reason, those would be very securely locked. There's no way that they would be able to come open and adrift. But for just day-to-day life, I think having just like a little bit of a lip would be more than enough.
I think having wooden slides is probably a good idea, because that's something that if it messes up, it's super easy to replace. You know, I think metal slides are fantastic because you can get that full extension action, but they have bearings and other stuff in there that can get full of gunk, and those are not as easy to replace.
No, and
that's
rust
something you have to go buy.
Corrosion is
exactly.
An issue.
It is a huge issue. But I also don't think that just having drawers setting flat on top of the framing right there, because eventually it's going to wear down on that. It'll take a lot of time, but I think overall having some kind of, personally I think having some type of wooden slide system would be pretty ideal, because it's super easy to replace and it doesn't damage the drawer itself, and it also doesn't damage the frame that the drawers are riding inside of.
We should probably prep a bunch of cedar first. I've got those boards all picked out. They're ready to go through the big thicknesser, and we can get that prepped. And then maybe we can dig through the maple, and somebody can start joining and cleaning up cedar for building the framing, and somebody can start ripping up and joining the maple for the bench top.
Yeah, I don't have a preference which one.
Cool. Well, let's go see if the real big thicknesser will start. And go eat some cedar.
Good.
I can hear it breathing.
He's trying. She wants it.
She wants it.
Give her a second. She'll go. Watch that temperature gauge like your life depends on it. If it breaks 180, you let me know. If it breaks 180, we've got like 20 seconds before all hell breaks loose. Just gotta keep a tight eye on it. But we can go through, and I would say let's pick like maybe the 2 or 3 best for drawer fronts, and then we can pick what we need for the tabletop.
Yeah.
And we can get stuff run through the thicknesser. Nice, solid, strong drawer fronts.
Yeah, that way there's less likely to receive damage. You could use it as a weapon if someone came aboard unexpected.
There's some with like very mild spalting. I think we can find some beautiful drawer front ones.
I think spalting adds character.
Yeah.
It's all
not
natural.
Too much of it.
It's all natural character.
Too much going on that one. I think that line's just like too stark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll jump out.
And this has got some cupping to it.
Yep.
I don't love it. And this one looks to be even worse.
And it's
Got
got
all
some
the checks.
checking. Yeah.
So I would say that can just stay there. We can put some of these back. Okay. I'm gonna check the chip bin. I'm gonna reorganize these a little bit, and we can run these through the later, and then really see what we're looking at. Well, I think that's pretty good for wood selection. So these 3 aren't going to make the cut for this round. And we've got 2 that we pulled out over here that actually are a book-matched pair. And we're going to do the drawer fronts out of these. So one will be the upper drawer, one will be the lower drawer faces. And this will be kind of wild because the pattern will continue uninterrupted down all the drawer fronts. So that'll be cool. And then we've got kind of a similar thing going on here for the bench top. So we got this one on the outside that's got some crazy like flaming spalting going on. And we're going to use these other 2 wide ones. And that'll end up becoming the 3 boards that make up the top. So next we got to get some straight lines and get those cut, and then we can cut to length, run them through the joiner and then through the planer again. Because the whole purpose of running it through that planer the first time was just to be able to see what we're actually working with, be able to see the grain patterns and defects. And for this, what we're trying to do is, because they're so figured and crazy, that we're just leaning into that curve and trying to get the craziness to look as nicely as possible. If these were all perfectly clear, straight maple, we wouldn't have to worry so much about that, and it would also be a lot more boring. So this will be more interesting. Let there be light. Would it make sense to cut these closer to rough length so we don't have to rip so much?
Yes, it would. Yeah, so that I was thinking about that too. I mean, it looks lighter just because it's fresh wood, so you don't have that aged appearance to it. But once you slap some finish on it, it darkens up anyways. But also you notice, maybe you didn't notice, I noticed on this end, the pattern was changing because the staining doesn't go all the way through the board.
Yeah.
So some of these things would start to disappear, or the other side would start to grow, which is kind of fun. Add some extra character, some unexpected character.
There's a pair of sawhorses over here. We're good to here. That's got plenty of width. It's that ladder 4 feet.
So what's the decision here, Steve?
Burn it. Burn it all. Now we're just gonna have to add 1 more strip on the end there. We got enough width on this end, but not enough width on that end.
It's a long day at the planer.
Yeah, that's like 80% of boat building.
Yeah.
Just edge jointing, making the 2 boards match for a nice seamless glue up. I'll do the mating faces at the same time, so no matter if you roll your blade, the plane, left or right, when you combine the 2 angles together, it always cancels each other out. So even if it's off 5 degrees one way or the other, it matches up, makes it flat.
What do you think? Backsplash for it, basically?
Oh yeah?
So we'll make the bench and cut the curve to fit, and we'll cut it 3/4 of an inch shy, and then we can put this to the back of it, bend it to the shape, screw it in, and it'll be a 90-degree curve to the hull. Keep things from rolling into the
nice.
back. And it'll also create like a little bit of a cubby in the back between where the hull comes down at an angle. So you could tuck long things in there that are small.
Squares.
Yeah, you can just kind of lean back there. So could you joint this too while you're at it?
Can. Oh, thanks. Can't hear anything. Ah, there it was.
Seems good. Now we wait till tomorrow.
With a bit of time left in the day, Wes finished making up the framing lumber from the cedar they had prepped the day before.
So we have our board that we put in here that we were putting the vise on and kind of getting the feel for everything, and we're going to use this as our template. So I used a ruler essentially as a joggle stick, and what we do is just put it against the frame and then draw a straight line and mark just whatever random numbers, it doesn't matter, just so that you can find the ruler back to the same exact spot along the same line. So that'll give us where we touch all of the frames all the way down, and I pulled some extra measurements on the end and some extra angles where it's going to notch around the knee. And this ruler is too long, but if you take a narrower one and put it right up against the bulkhead and trace the line, that'll give us the angle here. Because these bulkheads follow the deck beams, and the deck beams aren't like 100% square to the center line of the boat, the bulkheads are cocked just like ever so slightly a little bit, which isn't a big deal. We just need to account for it when we build the top. And that is a real quick and easy, dirty way of finding that. So I don't know how deep it actually is or exactly how far off the angle is. I know it's about 1/2-3/4 of an inch over the length of the bench, but we don't really need to. We can just take this board upstairs, put it along the front of the bench, go down it with the ruler, connect the dots, and we should have a really close first fit. So this is how you use joggle sticks. Same thing, just instead with a ruler.
Makes sense.
Can you hold that there? Okay, and take that out. It's a good thing there's no obstacles up here.
I'll just skip that. I'm clear. A little bit tight in the back, but that can get planed out.
Oh, it's got to go back.
Oh, yeah. Knees. Oh, yeah, that's seated.
It's a good thing we're going to touch the varnish up again later.
Yeah. Okay.
Five and a half overhang. A little over 6. So we could bring, I guess we don't really even need to. I mean, is there any real reason it needs to be parallel to this?
You won't notice it if it's not, unless you measure it.
And shaking her head, yeah, you won't notice either. Yeah, it's like 3/4 of an inch difference.
I'm just gonna sneak in here and start hanging plumb bobs along that part just to keep it visual, just so you know. Oh, yep, off by 1/8. Yep, that's gonna have to get shaved off. Yep.
Thanks as always for watching, and don't forget to check out the t-shirt campaign running now through the next 2 weeks. We'll pick up from here next week as Wes and Steve continue on the workbench. See you again next Friday.